Hello and welcome to week 14 of the Base on Balls podcast here at the Johnny Lee Memorial League. I'm Hendog, joined alongside Bracton, Cody, and John Height for this week's episode. A couple of nail biters, a lot more exciting matches this week than what we saw last week. Before we get into things, guys, how you doing? All-Star break is coming up. How you guys feeling about that? Except for the Home Run Derby tomorrow, or this week. John Height, how you feeling?
I am doing fantastic, Hen. As I said at the end of last week's pod, I gave a little forecast of what was going to happen this week. You know, the old yard goats in the field with their shepherd, Shohei Ohtani, all routinely took shits on the baby birds known as the Larks. It was a big blowout win, and I'm just having my team continue to roll on and stay undefeated as we head into the break.
Cody, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It was a big week. Team scored over 800 points, so I'm feeling good. Going into the break, take a few days off, watch the Derby, and mentally prepare to take on Tita in the extended matchup.
Definitely going to be an interesting matchup, and we'll see how that goes as we preview in next week's episode. Bracton, how you doing?
I'm all right. I accomplished what I needed to accomplish and went 3-1 in the 4-week stretch. This week was not a very good week, even though it was competitive for 4 or 5 days there for a little bit. I completely botched some managerial decisions, which I'm not happy about, but I would have lost anyway because John I was the highest scoring team in the league this week, so I'm not too hung up about it. Just hopefully regroup and let's see what we can do against Brian the extended week.
Yeah, I mean, extended week, definitely interesting. Some interesting dynamics. Obviously, All-Star game is happening on Tuesday, and then teams are off, I believe, until Thursday. So we got a little bit of a break to kind of regroup. But I want to preview this week's episode, or last week's games, before we head into some trades in this week's game. And I first want to talk about one. We had a few game of the weeks. It was a very interesting slate. But I think the first game I have to talk about was myself, the Clearwater Beach Dogs, taking down the Norfolk Tides 684 to 683. And I'll actually let you guys take the floor. I feel like whenever I feel like I don't want to talk so much. I want to get your guys' takes on this. John, I'll start with you.
For you versus Paul, right?
Yeah.
So I was looking through this, and I just think, first of all, it's absolutely astonishing that, Hen won by 1 point. For a little background. This was a very, very back and forth week. I know a lot of playoff implications were on the line. I know Paul had a big lead for a while, then Hen took the lead. And then, after Paul's team really made a last-ditch effort, I think, like Hen just said off air, if it wasn't for a Juan Soto walk, the Norfolk Tides would have gotten the victory. And just, first of all, starting with Paul's team, just a lot of heartbreak for him recently. He had the tough matchup against my team on the last day and this, and a couple matchups against Scott. It just, a lot of things not going the Tides' way right now. But if you look at, the stats, Hen and Paul actually tied for the most for offensive points for bats. They both scored 332 points each in the bats department, and for pitching, Hen had 352 and Paul had 351. So as tight as it can be. Some guys for Paul, Yoshida had a big week at 58. Julio had 51. Adley had almost 50, and then the pitching, Aaron Savali had 49. Eflin 54. Dean Kremer, really good start against the Yanks, had 46. All-Star Kodai Senga at 53. So he had some big-time performances. In terms of Hen, I know you're going to mention it too, but I really feel like your offense wasn't what it usually is. If it was what it usually is, you'd probably have cracked at least 750. But you still had Max Muncy, gave you 60. Corbin Carroll only had 8 because he had the injury. Soto only had 25. So just kind of a mixed bag for the offense. The pitching was good. Strider at 48. Keller 35, G Little 50. So as tight as it can be. Congrats to Hen for the victory. And poor Paul, man, he's going to start getting some wins like this. The luck can only go so bad for so long. I think it's going to turn around for him pretty soon.
Bracton, what are you thinking?
I'm going to rub the salt in the wound for Paul a little bit. I'm going to read you PM here on July 8th, 2023. at 12:22 in the morning. Paul could have had Miles Mikolas.
Miles.
Well, whatever. Paul could have had Miles Mikolas, and instead he traded for Andrew Heaney, who got negative 12 points. And Miles Mikolas got 41 points. If he trades for Miles Mikolas for the exact same package he gives up for Andrew Heaney, he wins the game. So that's unfortunate. But he also got some pitching performances that weren't great from his guys. Taj Bradley, 2. Reed Detmers, -9. Ryan Nelson, I don't know who that is, -18. Like, Yadier Cano is usually really solid, put up -3. But I think he hit his Nate Pearson trade stip, though, right? It was pretty close. I don't know. So,
He might have.
yeah, he had 2.1 innings. I think he was like 1 or 2 off from that trade step. I don't know. But regardless, a tough week for Paul, even though he got some good stuff from Brian Wu, who was just an absolute dog, 55 points in a 2-start week for him. But unfortunate. Another heartbreaking loss, but good on Hendog. Even though not a lot of performances from his big guys, even though he tied for the most points with hitting this week, I think it was a down week for a lot of his guys. And I know Corbin Carroll got hurt, but it's good to see he's okay now. I don't see anything next to his name anymore, which is good. So good on Hendog. We'll see what he does in the extended week, but I feel bad. You got to feel for Paul after this one.
And Cody.
Yeah, this is a matchup, I feel like, of two very similar teams. I think the score is kind of indicative of that. Both these teams may have been better quicker than I think either expected if we rewind back to mid-March. I think both these teams are sitting on a lot of prospects, and both owners could spend those prospects here as we approach the trade deadline and really make a big step forward. But as it is here today, it's another just brutal loss for Paul. It seems like this just continues to happen. I'm always saying, it seems like he gets a win, he gets above 500, and then he loses by 1 point and falls back to 500. So, here he is. He's back at 500 at 7-7. Looking at the standings and the scoring and everything, this kind of felt like more of a must-win for him than it did Paul. And I say that because, with the things that's kind of happened from the day, that 7th seed starts to look a lot more attainable for Paul, even if he lost this matchup. And Hen's really trying to jockey for seeding and kind of move up the list here, and I don't think he could afford to take the loss this week. So, he survived by 1 point. Listen, you win by 500, you win by 1. It's just a W. That's all that matters. And so, big congrats to Hen. Paul, it's just tough, man. Not a lot of words when you lose by 1 point. Team played great. You scored 683. You ought to win that week. Good offense, good pitching performances. Kodai Senga, I think John Hine mentioned, he was big for Paul this week. I think, as we always say, Paul's got a good team. I think if as I mentioned before, if he spends some of those prospects and maybe, positions himself a little more competitively, I think his team can get even better from there. Going across to Hen, I could say the same for him. Good team. I think there's room for improvement. It's just you're kind of stuck in that window of do you want to sit on these prospects or do you want to make a move? Also, too, as I've mentioned, there's not a lot out there anymore, man. There's been a lot of buying and a lot of selling. So I'm sure both owners are trying to be patient with their prospects. Kyle Tucker looks to be back, another 47-point week. He's playing well. Max Muncy, ugliest dude in baseball, with 60 points. I know Hen will take it. Let's see. Giolito with a 50 spot over 2 starts. What else was I see? Strider. I mean, he's no Logan Webb, but he put up 48. Hen's got to be, semi-happy with that. So, congrats to Hen. He moves up. He's gaining. Trying to get some seeding spots for Paul. Man, you just got to bounce back. You got to keep doing it. You can't let a 1-point loss to a really good team to end kind of put you in a tailspin. So it'll be interesting to see what both these guys do as the trade deadline approaches.
Yeah, Cody, you kind of mentioned it when you were saying that this felt like more of a must-win for me than Paul. Because, obviously Paul wanted to win, and, he could still lose that 7th seed. But, obviously with the way things shook out this week, Jamie ended up winning, Brian ended up winning. I managed to keep my position at the 4 seed. But if I lost, I would have dropped to 6. And it's basically the reason why I essentially just overpaid for Michael Lorenzen. Call it how it is. I know Connor said it was a market setting deal, which I don't know. I felt like I had prospects to burn. I needed a quick start. I will say, I'll be honest, I don't know how I won this week, and I don't even know if I should have won. I was really bad managing this week. I think it was a combination of, the 4th of July, me not being on top of my game, and also just the weird all-star shenanigans, like Corbin Cowell had 8 points in the games I played him, and then the 2 games I thought he wasn't going to play because I was like, oh, it's the All-Star break. The Diamondbacks will just rest him, like literally every other team has been doing with their top players. I thought they're going to rest him. He ended up getting 19 points one week and then or one game and then 16 another, and it was the 2 games I didn't play him, and he scored 8 across the other days, which sucked, but I ended up winning, so it didn't matter. A Max Scherzer start also got slotted up, which, it got confirmed at 3 or 2 in the afternoon on 4th of July. I'm obviously, not glued to my computer, which, that's on me. But, it is what it is. But I had won. It doesn't matter. I won. My hitting was not good. I was saying before, I scored 3 batting points today alone. Obviously, that's not very good, but it ended up working. Going over some players, Paul Goldschmidt had an awful week. He was 7 of 26. Just not good stuff. Max Muncy was great. Bo Bichette had a really weird week. Juan Soto, 2 of 20, terrible. Kyle Tucker was solid. Lane Thomas just continues to do his thing. Max Muncy was great. And then looking over towards pitching, Andrew Abbott got rocked, which, he's a rookie. It was his first bad start since really I've had him, so I'm not complaining. Lucas Giolito had a great week with 50. Michael Lorenzen, the guy I paid for, I got him on a waiver, or I basically was trying to stream start him. I was like, he needs to do well against the A's. I think they lit up Erod the day before, and I was like, there's no way they light up Lorenzen and Erod back-to-back days. I was right, although A.J. Hinch almost screwed me over by not playing him another inning, would have gotten an extra 12 points, but it didn't matter. Scherzer sucked the game I started him and not the one I didn't. Spencer Strider was amazing, and then looking towards the bullpen, another amazing week from Alexis Diaz, and Dave Robinson got me a cool 24. So I did what I need to do. Great teams find ways to win even when they probably shouldn't. Paul has an amazing team. Like you said, Cody, if you're scoring high 600s, you're going to win most weeks. It's just you need that extra point, and he didn't end up getting, which is unfortunate. But shifting over towards another of our supposed game of the weeks, we have a game that was a lot of rivalry coming in stake here in 2 members of the podcast. The Hartford Yard Goats went into Bismarck, North Dakota, and took their pants 920 to 532. John Hyde, I'll start with you. Obviously, you got the big win. What were your thoughts on your team's performance this week?
Yeah, first off, me and Bracton, one of our best friends in real life. Whatever we say in the league is not indicative of how we actually are in real life. So, we're always very fiery and passionate with our rivalry in this league, first and foremost. Second of all, in this matchup, it was close for, I think it was 3 days, and then the 4th day was when things really, started waking up. My team really didn't play well the first 3 or 4 days, and it was really as expected because I hit over 1,000 last week, so I knew the regression was going to come a little bit. But I was just really proud of my team this week that I was able to score, 571 batting points, with Shohei Ohtani only having 32 total points between hitting and pitching this week. I think it showed to the depth of my team. And, a lot has already been said in Maine about how we feel about each other's teams. All I'll say is, we look through the big performers on my team, and the majority of them are players that Bracton has either disrespected, called out, or just didn't give any respect for. This week alone, Machado at 81, Lindor at 92. Mookie Betts at 83. I think these guys can all show. It doesn't matter how old they are. Mookie Betts is a future Hall of Famer. The other two, if they continue their career, could be Hall of Famers. So, they're not going to stop anytime soon, especially guys that are under 30. My pitching as well. I had 350 pitching points. He only had 197. So I knew my pitching was always going to be ahead, even though I thought maybe his bats would have been a little bit better this week. I had some big performances. Blake Snell gave me 72. The NL Cy Young, co-candidate right now, in my opinion. Just kidding. Not really. Corbin Burns bounced back, gave me 30. Garrett Cole, 32. It was pretty cool to see my pitching do this well with guys like Erod, Rodon, and Evaldi only giving me under 5 points each. So I think if they would have been normal, I probably would have been close to 1,000 again. But again, Bracton's team, he's got probably the most exciting young player in baseball. Ohtani's probably the number one for overall, but the young player in baseball who's taking the league by storm, Elliott, 88. He outscored Machado by 7, but again, if we go back to the trade we talked about earlier in the week, could have been Machado and Betts and whoever who all had 80, but I digress. Volpe had a good week as well. I knew it was going to be a narrative game against me. He had 38. I really think you can't compare him to Garrett Cole because Cole had one start and it was 32, which is more than enough. Sucks. He only had 11. And, I'll just say again, old players get the job done, as we've seen twice now. I've won by 250 and now close to 400. So I'm very confident, and I just got to hope my team keeps playing like this coming out of the All-Star break.
Bracton, what were your thoughts?
I'm happy with some of this. Not gonna lie, I like that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Matt Olson kind of kept up with each other throughout the whole week. I thought that was positive. Vlad's been getting a lot of shit recently, and as an avid Vlad fan, I don't really love when that happens. But now that he's on par with who everyone considers to be one of the best first basemen in baseball, I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with, what more can I say about Elly De La Cruz? Already, in my opinion, one of the best players in baseball, and is 21 years old. I love him. I love having him. He's never getting traded, never going anywhere. 88 points, great, unbelievable. Anthony Volpe looks to be my shortstop of the future here. He had a very solid week. I was happy with that 3 home runs this week, too, for him. It's pretty good. Luis Robert had a fine week. And I made some deals because it is clear to me that I'm not going anywhere this year as far as winning goes. Even if I get the right to make the playoffs and get curb stomped by the 2 seed, doesn't seem like something I'm really interested in doing right now. So I sold off some guys. Not necessarily a rebuild. I want to do more what Paul did in the first couple weeks and kind of retool. I've only made one move, which we'll talk about a little later, that's really taking a piece away from my roster. I think the pitching total for this week was 197. It was low because I mismanaged some things. I left a 37-point Barrios start on my bench because it got rained out and I didn't see it. Because I set my lineups on Monday, so I didn't see that they pushed him back a day, and I already had him out of my lineup. Forgot to adjust it because, like Hen said, 4th of July with family and everything, and dealing with other stuff. But that wasn't good. I left a 30-point Dane Dunning start on my bench. Left a 24-point Clark Schmidt start on my bench. Not good. Shane Bieber, not good. Josiah Gray, not good. Mackenzie Gore, just a lot went wrong. But on the bright side, Terry Skubal looks happy, healthy, and good. 42 points in 8 innings of work. I think it was a 2-start week for him. They're trying to ease him back into it, but so far he looks really good. 11 strikeouts in 8 innings. Like, that's a positive sign. And yeah, if anybody wants some players, man, come over. I've got a lot for sale here. Trying to readjust some things, but there's some stuff to be positive about. I wanted to be 7-7 at this point, and I am. So that 7 seed's up for grabs, man. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I do find a way to sneak in after this retold. But I want to get younger. I want to get some more picks. I want to get a little bit more prospects, and just we'll see what happens. But I'm not as upset with this as some people are making it out to be. So it's all good. We'll be good.
And Cody?
Yeah, man, interesting matchup here, and I just think it's two very different teams at two very different ends of the spectrum, and I think the score was indicative of that. I mean, John Hike scored 920 points when he got 39 combined points from Ohtani and Mike Trout. I mean, that's pretty terrifying for the rest of the league. Over 570. I mean, he almost scored 600 points offensively. His bats would have beat Bracton's team alone. I mean, the Yard Goats are showing, all this season is as we all try to compete and build our teams, we're all watching the Yard Goats, seeing what they're doing, waiting on that week that he goes down to the high 500s, the low 600s. I mean, at this point, we're just waiting on him not to break 800. I don't even know, I mean, by all of, accounts, this wasn't even a complete week for him. That's how dominant this team is. And I mean, the difference is kind of right here. Luis Robert, probably one of the Larks' best or second best bat, was outscored by Christian Yelich, which is the Yard Goats' probably worst bat offensively. I mean, he beat him in all aspects of the fantasy game. I mean, outscored him at every position. But really, for Bracton, I will say for the Larks, 335 points offensively is a solid output. It was the pitching that held him back this week, 197. That, he knows that's not going to cut it. I wouldn't say it was too much about the mismanagement with the starts. Even if, he starts Barrios and gets the 37 points, he wouldn't have traded for Miles Mikolas and gotten the 41. So technically, managing properly, he would have actually scored less. So, I think it's just the talent there with pitching. Bracton's focus has been offensively. The offense does look good, but, the pitching's taking a big hit. And it's going to be interesting to see which way he kind of goes in acquiring pitching. Established starters, as we all know, are incredibly expensive and incredibly hard to get. A lot of guys are taking the route of maybe going injured arms for cheap and waiting on them, or going prospect arms. It's just, I mean, there's options there to get pitching. It's just probably a little more difficult than getting bats. I think the sell-off this week, with where the current state of the team was, probably does take him out of the 7th seed. I don't think that's too much, too hard for Bracton. I think he's fine with that. I think the focus is the future. If Ellie's going to be your guy, if Ellie's the face of your team, the future is probably where you're aiming more so than the current. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of, as he continues to sell and kind of see where he's going to go from there. For John Haidt, I wouldn't touch a thing, man. Sit on this roster, keep scoring 900 points. The only thing maybe this guy could do is just drop Eduardo Rodriguez, right? I mean, who cares? I mean, but seriously though, I wouldn't touch a thing, man. God forbid, please don't buy anybody else. I would hate to see you just regularly score 1,000. Let us at least have a chance here. But yeah, interesting week. I just think it's, two teams going in two completely different directions. And, I think the score showed that. Bracton will have better weeks, and the Yard Goats will just continue to beat the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for the fanfare and for, just this little rivalry, I wish it was a bit closer. I mean, I knew John Height was going to gonna win, but I wish it was just a little more competitive, just for the spirit of the game. But John's Height seems obviously very good. He's cracking 900 again, and he had a bad week from Shohei. I really don't have to look at who did well. I mean, John Height at 571 points, which probably exceeded most teams. And, Bracton, if you would have managed the team perfectly, it probably wouldn't have mattered because everyone lost to John Height by a lot of points, and it is what it is. So, I like the way you're starting to, retool now. You're starting to get some more prospects and picks, which is good because, it was kind of funny because I don't know if I might have said this or not, but at certain points you had more IR rostered spots than picks and prospects. That's not the case anymore, which is good. I think even if you're doing a little retool, you just need to have some prospects in the system as well. But hey, I like it. You're shooting for 25. I think like Leonardo DiCaprio. That's good. We know how much of a winner he is. He's got an Oscar, so But I mean, hey, there's not a whole lot else that you can do here. John Height is a good team. Bracton's trying to get into retool phase. That's all I have to say. So, before I go into your matchup, Cody, I wanted to talk about our third matchup of the week between IMage, the Tampa Tarpons. That's actually how you pronounce the name from. So I wanted to clarify that. And then the Nashville Sounds, 5-8. The Tarpons won 8-10 to 5-8-9. Unfortunately, Tita, you did not get the sweep as I predicted or as we predicted. Unfortunate, but IMA's team, I mean, he, very good. So, Cody, we'll start with you. I thought it was going to be a lot closer, but it wasn't. So I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I personally did not see this kind of final score with this matchup. Jamie's got a good team. I wasn't on the podcast last week. If I would have been, I probably would have predicted Jamie to win or Jaime to win. But by this much, I probably didn't see that. I know Tita's kind of been, the team's kind of slowing down a little bit from where it was. I think he's lost 3 in a row now. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's 3 in a row. And Tita made some moves too. He kind of sold off midweek when he kind of realized that maybe this one was out of reach and Tita never sells, but it more of like, some retool, some movement, some things like that. That I think that maybe, he realized this one was out of reach and he made some moves. I expect Tita to continue to do that. That's what Tita does. He is going to absolutely manage this team. As for the Tarpons, I mean, the bat performance, 483. If we're going to pat John Height on the back for the bats, I mean, you got to give the Tarpons some credit too. Just some really, really big performances. And even Ronald Acuna only had 38. A down week. Bobby Witt's going. Freddie Freeman is just going to do what Freddie Freeman does. Tatis with a solid week, and Corey Seager with another massive week. The pitching for the Tarpons was this is about where I think he can be. He got some good points from the relievers, over 100 points from his closers. Gavin Williams with another good start. I really think that guy's going to blossom into a true ace very soon. Severino needs to be yeeted into the moon, minus 17. Nola just, 2-start week, 58 points. That's solid. Charlie Morton, the ageless wonder, just keeps producing. Lance Lynn, another ageless wonder that keeps producing, and Alex Cobb. These guys are getting these old guys, and they're winning matchups because of it. It's working for them. The Tarpons are going to keep rolling here. I think that this is kind of where he can stay if things work out. I know Bryce Harper got hit in the elbow I'm not sure kind of what's going to happen with him. Jamie doesn't have a lot of depth. So, that would be, I know he doesn't want to lose Bryce Harper here. And as for the Sounds, just sit back and let Tita do his work. I'll play him next week in the extended matchup. It's uncomfortable, to say the least, because the roster today is probably not going to be what it looks like when we play Thursday. So, interesting matchup. I don't know if, who's daddy at this point. I guess Jamie's stepdaddy or Tita's uncle, or maybe they're just third cousins. But, they split for the season 1-1, and the rivalry continues.
John, hi, what are your thoughts?
So, Tita's my guy, and I was the only one last week actually to pick Jaime to win. I just thought, because the week before that, he didn't have that good of a week. I think it was maybe under 600 or just at 600. But I knew his offense was going to bounce back in a big way. 483 points. Outside of my team, he had 14 homers. I think I had around 20, but he had 14 homers, 35 RBI, just outstanding numbers offensively. The pitching as well. I think I agree with you, Cody. That's kind of where he's going to be, I think, going forward. His relief pitching is really a strong point, at least, having the three closers. Hader and Romano's now an all-star, so he's got a lot of depth with that. But, the pitching, Gossman didn't even have that great of a week. 21 is good, but by his standards, it's not even great. Lance Lynn at 47. Aaron Nola, had a 50-point and 8-point start, so something to look out for. I'm glad I got rid of Luis Severino. That guy just stinks in every way, shape, and form. But, congrats to Jamie for a big offensive performance, just a big performance all around by all of his top dogs, except for Acuna, which was a little surprising. And we'll see what's going on with Bryce Harper. In terms of Tita, it's been said, this team's not going to look anything like this next week. I think he sold off, a decent amount of good bats this week. I think he's going to probably get a couple, I think, this week in return to kind of supplement that. JD Martinez, a guy I let go too soon. 64th overall bat, and he's the second-ranked DH. He had a 50-piece. He just got Chris Bassett for me, who I know he only had 5 points today, but another 20-point-per-game pitcher. So he's going to bounce back. He traded Pablo Lopez, I know, who had the shutout, to Cody, but Tita got credit for the shutout. So I think Tita's going to be more than fine. He's got plenty of pieces to move and to wheel and deal like the Nashville Sounds typically do.
And Bracto.
Looking at some of the guys I traded Jamie that are balling, Bobby Miller had 23, Gavin Williams had 22. I don't see Bryce Miller on here getting him points. I don't know whether Bryce Miller got hurt or not, but those two are balling. Another former Lark,
Yeah,
Lance.
I think he is hurt.
Oh, okay. Another former Lark, Lance Lynn, 47. Jamie had some good pitching performances this week, and I love what he's doing. I love his young group. Look at Will Benson giving him 30 points. That's pretty cool to watch. So, he put up 8-10 with Ketel Marte not having a great week, Acuna not having a great week by his standards, Bryce Harper getting hurt, and some negative pitching performances. So that's pretty interesting. It could be a little higher than that if everything were to go pretty normal for him. So good for Jamie. We'll see what Tita does, because I love watching Tita make trades. I've learned a lot from him this year, as I said. So we'll see. I know we'll be talking about some of the deals he already made later on in the show, but good week for Jamie. Good for him.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, John, you mentioned the part about Acuna, and I was like, he had 100 something last week, and I remember because he finished with, right? I forget exactly what it was. It was 100 something. I remember when we were previewing the matchup, I said he's not going to get the same amount of points, and I thought the offense was going to regress, but everyone else just kind of, exceeded expectations, and I think he got even more offensive points. He got 500, close to 500 this week. I think he had the low 400s last week, but I really like what he's been doing with his team. We are saying that he needed to get pitching, and he obviously doesn't have the aces, as good of aces, but when you're getting good outings from Alex Cobb, Lance Lynn, Bryce Miller got him 25, Charlie Moore got him 35. Luis Severino sucks, but you know what? That's what it is. Gavin Williams, had a bit of a rough week, but he's got 2 starts at least. He did what we asked of him, and he still has the bat talent. Acuna had a bad week, but, you're getting 73 from Freddie Freeman, 76 from Bobby Witt Jr., 30 from Will Benson was surprising. Unfortunately, Bryce Harper looks like he might be out long-term, although x-rays were negative. He got hit in the same elbow. He got Tommy John, so that's a bit unfortunate. Corey Seager got him 62. And look, 600's not great for Tita. I know his team is much more capable of that, but it was a good week for Jaime. It's just Tita's got to go back, do a little bit of tinkering. I know he did some work this week, which we'll talk about, but 347 points from his hitting, which was fine, but only 242 from the pitching, which wasn't good. He had some rough starts from Chris Bassett, only got him 5. Yanni Chirinos only got him -10. John Gray got him 4. Sonny Gray got him 1, former Beach Dog, unfortunately. He got a great start from Pablo Lopez, but really no one else showed up to play. You got, Camilo Doval, who, obviously a very good reliever, still a top 5 reliever, got him -12 points this week and only an inning pitched. It's unfortunate. I know Tita's going to do some tinkering because, not only because we talk about must-win week, especially for, my team, but Tita's now staring at a half a game deficit from the 6th seed. Obviously I got the win. Jaime beat Tita, and then Bry won. And so now we're all within a game of Tita for that 3 seed. So Tita knows he's got to get some work done, do some tinkering on that front to, get back into shape. And he'll have a good matchup this week as I load because my app is annoying. But now we'll head to the next week's episode. We'll head to another game for this week. Cody on our pod. Nice walloping. Bowling Green Hot Rods beat the Rochester Red Wings 818 to 575. Cody, take it away.
Yeah, this one felt good. I really felt like my pitching really came together. I've made a lot of moves in that department, and even not getting Pablo Lopez's huge outing, I traded for him after the roster's locked, and so I didn't get that outing, but I'm going to have him in the future to add to this. Logan Webb with 107 points, Logan Gilbert with 108 points, just massive pitching performances. My closers combined for 108 points. Those are big. The pitching really showed up this week. 438 points. Definitely proud of that performance. As for my bats go, 380. Not really where I want it to be. Gunnar Henderson just keeps rolling. Gave me another 57. Adolis Garcia, that was a big get for me as I kind of make my playoff push. 52 points. Sean Murphy at the catcher position with 59 points. That was huge, but I got, just traded for Pete Alonso. Did not give me a great week this week. I got to get him going, get some home runs. Austin Riley still kind of holding back on me. He showed signs of getting going, and then he kind of goes back to here, so I'm still waiting on that. I'm definitely proud of this performance. I would have liked to see a little more offensive production. The goal is to keep up with John Haidt here, right? So, I feel like my pitching can. My offense, there's still some separation there, but I'm working on it. I'm trying to close the gap. As for Dave, he just needs to play me every week. I really don't know what the hell it is. When he plays me, his team goes off. Josh Jung with 62 points. Jaron Duran with 66 points. He actually outscored me offensively this week. His offense was 421, which is absolutely incredible. Heimer Candelario, 41 points. Anthony Santander, 66 points. He's a guy, I've kind of tossed around trading for. I think he's a big-time bat if somebody's trying to make a playoff push there. Dave's got some stuff. I think the pitching kind of let him down, minus Kyle Gibson with 52 points. J.P. Sears with 50. I'm tired of that narrative.
J.P.
But you know, like I said, Dave can have these kind of strong weeks. I knew that coming into it, so I was really happy to see that my team, especially the pitching, you know, really gave me some points, and I ended up over at 800. So I'm happy with this week. There's still some separation between John Height and my team, but you know, I think he hears me coming now, maybe faintly. But I'm back there, and I'm working on building and trying to catch the yard goats.
John, hi. What are your thoughts on that response that Cody's catching you?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, you hit it the nail on the head, Cody. 438 from your arms is a scary sight. I know we talk about my offense all the time, but I think it's safe to say that the big strength of your team is your arms. And, you know, they really don't mess around. Interesting to see what's going to go on with Tyler Glass now. I know he's been getting hurt a lot, and Sandy's still been even though he had a decent week. But, I mean, the 107 points from Webb and 108 from Logan Gilbert, I know they both had complete game shutouts in there, but still the potential is there for both of them. Logan Webb is an ace as well as Gilbert. Another strong point, again, is the relief pitching, going out and getting Duvall back. Giving you 30. Devin Williams at 31. Just an underrated part of your team, honestly. In terms of the offense, I think it would have been a higher total if everyone was to their potential. I think Pete Alonso is going to get super hot after the All-Star break. He's been in a real bad rut lately, and you kind of bought him right when he's been a little bit in the lower end, and he's going to easily pop off again. I mean, he has 26 homers already. He's probably going to hit maybe 45. I mean, the way the track was going, people were talking about maybe 50. So I didn't see it happening. Having Sean Murphy at 59 is a dog. But again, I mean, Jonathan India with 38 is good. I mean, he could do even more, though, like we've seen this season. Austin Riley's going to bounce back. So, I mean, I definitely hear you for sure. This is a team, I know the only time we played, it wasn't as close as we thought it was. We thought it was going to be a super close matchup. But, this is the team I do not ever want to play in the playoffs. I think, anything can happen. His pitching is really, really good. And, a lot of these bats as well, he's only getting better. I really wanted Adolis Garcia. Just for full disclosure, that's a guy I was going after. That's why I traded for Yelich. He kind of was a little bit of a backup plan, even though they're kind of around the same, actually, in ranking. But, getting Garcia is huge. And, I mean, the hot rods, it's going to be a battle between us, even if we don't play until the playoffs again. Rest of the season. In terms of Dave, I mean, his offense is no joke. I was following it, because I was watching the kind of the offense unravel, and he was kind of outscoring you offensively for some points of the week. But I mean, the pitching is not even remotely close. Your pitching is at its highest level. But yeah, Santander we mentioned, Candelario, Riley Green is going to get going. He's definitely got still maybe a tad bit of pieces left. I know, like you mentioned, just if people are going to buy, there's not a lot left. I mean, I'm kind of guilty of that. I bought a ton, obviously, for what I'm trying to do, but he still got a little bit. And, if someone could pry Josh Young from him, just unbelievable player at such a young age. Definitely interesting. But great win for the Hot Rods. And, if they could be scoring 800 points per week, that's definitely a scary sight and very concerning to me.
Bracto, as the door slammed shut.
Yeah, just I still continue to believe Cody is the real model for how to build a team here. I love what he's doing. I love all the players that he has. Like I wish I could trade for his entire team. Just great performances across the board, with some new blood coming up with Jordan Westberg and Jordan Walker and all of these young guys that he's been bringing in over the last couple of weeks. 57 from Gunnar Henderson. Like, stuff's clicking over there, man. Things are happening, and it's fun to watch. This was a revenge game because Dave won the last one, so congrats to Cody for getting it done. And my best friend Spencer Torkelson had 25 points for Dave in this effort, so I know he got Riley Green in there too now, so Dave's continuing to invest in the Tigers. Not a bad strategy. I definitely still believe they're on the come up, but they just don't want to be good on my team. So that's just how it is. But again, congrats to Cody on a good week.
Yeah, Cody did his thing. I mean, 438 from your arms is ridiculous. Logan Webb obviously was good when I had him. You know, he had some up and downs, and then he as a virtual fuck you on his exit, at 107 combined points. Obviously, the talent was always there, and I don't regret doing that deal. It is unfortunate because when I originally traded for him, I was like, I need an ace like that, and then he'd give me like 30 one week, and then like 20, and then it was, you know, I wanted something more solidified, and Cody got it. 25 from Taiwan Walker. I remember, you know, Cody was asked me about him, like what his thoughts were, and I mean, he's been just very consistent for the Phillies. Really, I mean, you know, the past, you know, ever in the month of June, he's been like, obviously he's not an ace, but like if you're looking at his just production, you know, 44, 27, 43, 34, 33, 25. I mean, you know, that kind of pitching that you know, that doesn't grow on trees, and to get production like that solid. Got 2 quality starts, including a shutout from Logan Gilbert. I mean, good stuff there. Shitty Sandy, you know, decided to turn back the clock and actually pitch well against the Phillies. Fortunately for the Phillies, they ended up winning that game, so he didn't even get the win. But I mean, it didn't matter. And then looking towards the bats, Gunnar Henderson, good week. Dolis Garcia, great week. Wander Franco, I'm still keeping a little tabs on that. I think he's basically going to pull away at this point because Bo Bichette has just been kind of up and down. But I mean, 40 points, solid week. Sean Murphy, 59. And then looking towards Dave's team, I mean, Josh Jung, 62. Jared Durham, people said 60, 66. Santander, 66. I mean, the hitting did well for Dave, but just the pitching, and that's the par for the course. That's what separates the rebuilding teams in the contenders. Although J.P. Sears got him a nice little 50 bomb, but kind of doing a little, you know, looking over some of the other matchups of the week. I want to go over to a very interesting match that honestly, you know, was a bit surprising. I thought I had this going one way, very close game, and it's a game that could potentially decide playoff implications. Smell, the El Paso Chihuahuas narrowly edge out the Kannapolis Cannonballs 6-14 to 595. Very close game for both these sides. I'll get a little piece of it. I was looking at this matchup, kind of seeing how it was, and I know I was looking, obviously, how the playoffs are playing out, and I saw that Smell was losing to Hamco. I want to say by at least 100 a couple of days ago. I could be wrong, but that was the ballpark I was looking at. And then he had a big week today. I think he outscored him by 100 or close to 100 today, and really kind of put the nail in the coffin. 131 to 36 just individually today. I mean, looking at it, I mean, obviously the extra start from Smell was the difference maker there. And then looking towards the actual teams, Hamco bats it well, 400 points, but, you know, his pitching only got him 193. Meanwhile, Smell got 302 from his arms, which is a very solid number. You know, obviously Alvin Manoah bounced back, did well. You got a good week out. Domingo Herman, you know, Graham Ashcraft, you know, got him 22, but, you know, big week for Smell as he's now jostling to potentially steal that 7 seed right under Paul or Bracton. Brack, you want to talk about this?
1 sec. Wait, which one were we talking about? Sorry, I'm talking deals.
Smell and Hamco. You're all good.
Okay, Smell and Hamco. Yeah, I heard what you said at the end there about Smell going on a run here, trying to get into the playoffs here. We're actually talking a very big deal as we speak right now, that if he accepts, probably I will accept the fact that he will probably jump me in the standings.
What's the deal?
Yeah, we'll let it play out, and hopefully we'll see what it happens. But my computer is lagging right now. I can't even open the matchup here. Sorry, I can't open the matchup. I don't know what's going on with my computer, but anyway, yeah, good win for Smell. Not gonna repeat much else of what you just said. Hamco's continuing to struggle, but the future is very bright. He's got some pieces that are very attractive trade options too. I've heard some of the offers he's gotten from Michael Harris are absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So we'll see what he does with that, but. Good for Smell. I want to see him what he does to gear up for the playoffs here. So maybe he can keep talking to me here. Maybe something will happen.
Cody, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, sorry about that. Hold on, let me pull it up here. Yeah, I think that Smell kind of made a statement this week. I think this is our 7th seed in the playoffs. I really do. I think the Chihuahuas' late run. I think he's heading in the right direction. I think he's making the right moves to kind of build this team up and get it to where it needs to be. And right now he sits 1 game back. With what, 5 left? I think is there 5? Yeah, 5 left. So I think out of the 3 teams that can possibly get the 7th seed, I think this is the best roster. I think more moves are coming. That's going to kind of position him to extend that even more. As you guys mentioned, with 302 points from the pitching, that's something we hadn't seen from this team all year long. And now, rumors are he's going after more pitching. He's got the assets to secure it if he wants to give them up. And if he gets that, if he can improve that pitching even more, I think this is going to be our 7th seed in the playoffs. As for Homko, man, it's just, we're going to have to write a book about him and Paul when the season's over. The luck is just terrible. He's in every matchup. His offense scores 402 points. And then Yuri Perez gets sit down. The rest of the pitching lets him down. And he loses the matchup by, 19 points. Just another tough outing. And we say, Homko's got 2 wins this year. 2 wins this year. And what is it, the 6th best roster in the league, I would say? It's 5th best offense. I'll say that easy. But I think at this point at 2-10-1, I think it's over for him in terms of this season. But I would definitely not nuke this roster because he can basically just scrap this season, go into next year with these same players. And at this point in the season, he's probably going to be, 8-6, right in the thick of the playoff hunt. So, I don't think, even though the playoffs are out of reach, I don't think he should nuke this roster. I think, a lot of these guys are young. A lot of these guys are going to be just as good, if not better, next year. And so, it's going to be interesting to kind of see the decision he makes. But for Smell, to me, you got to smell blood in the water. We're going to find out if Smell's a shark or a guppy right here. So, it's going to be interesting. Can he go for it? Does he have the balls to go for it? That's going to be really interesting to see. And I just want to mention Alek Manoah with a 39-point outing against the lowly Detroit Tigers. That's bizarre to me. I don't know if that will last. But, hey, Smell's going to take it. And if it does, if Manoah gets back to what Manoah was, which I see as just not likely at all, but if it happens, that just makes this team even better. So, going to be interesting to see where these 2 teams go from here. But I do think if Smell wants it, the 7th seed is his.
John Height, I think you're the last person to go.
Yeah. So first, Alek Manoah, like we always say, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. That doesn't move me. I need to see more than just a matchup against the feeble Tigers. And real quick for Homko as well, as someone who works for a gambling company, so if you think about futures bets, I think it's a pretty safe futures bet or at least a good value bet for Homko making the playoffs next year because he really has had a ton of bad luck. He had me on the ropes earlier in the season. His offense is no joke. Although it is interesting to see him put Michael Harris on the block. I don't fully get that unless he can get a move maybe that gets him just a ton of pitching and fill some other holes. But we'll see what happens with that. But, I said before the week I thought Smell was going to win purely because I think he was slowly turning into a buyer. And I was kind of right. He bought Arias, who I almost got, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But, Smell got the win. The pitching is drastically improved. Domingo Germán at 46. I guess the perfect game. He's trying to turn things around. Had some good starts out of Austin Gomber. Ryan Yarbrough at 31. So good week for him. 300 points for pitching is solid. 300 for batting isn't bad as well. But yeah, poor Hamko, man. But again, if you're looking at futures bets for next year's season, playoffs bound, I think will be the Cannonballers.
Yeah, and we'll go through these next two games. First, we'll talk about the second Tank Bowl. As I was pushing it last week, Scott, the Richmond Flying Squirrels, took down the Oklahoma City Dodgers. Chad still winning the war on this front, 568 to 429. I don't know. It was two teams who were kind of out of the playoff picture. Chad, just waiting for the 2024 first-year player draft so he could take every single player he wants, and Scott just trying to rebuild as well. So, I don't know. What are you guys' quick thoughts on this? John?
You said this was Chad versus
Scott?
Yes. Okay, yeah. So for this matchup, definitely on the lower scoring end, 568 to 429. Scott got the win. I was looking at the weekly totals, and Scott had 400 points from his bats. I think in large part due to Francisco Alvarez had a monster week. He had 40. Joey Meneses gave him 68. Stott 45. Some huge performances. Seiya Suzuki with 45. Just a bunch of 40 plus performances. A guy to potentially buy for team. Giancarlo Stanton at 43. Even though he had a point game, we'll see if he can keep that up. The pitching for both were honestly pretty rough. 164 to 181. But again, they're not looking to win now. They're trying to build for the future. On Chad's team, still got some good production. Jake Berger had a homer. He almost had 30 points. Austin Hayes kind of had a little bit of an off week by his standards, at least from my end. Only 248 from the bats. I think it's a little bit unusual for him. Usually his bats are cracking at least 300. But some decent pitching performances actually from Kyle Bradish, or Bradish, however you say his name, had 35. Steven Matz had 32 with one. Wow, I think he turned into a reliever, so that's kind of crazy at me and Connor. But Scott got the win. That's all that matters. He's getting some good production out of his young guys, which is big. And again, Chad does not care because he has all the cards, all the picks, and he just got, at the minimum, Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz tonight. That's all he cares about.
I think he also basically got, I don't know who owns their pick. Chad owns, 8 first-rounders? He probably got Skeens, Cruz, Langford. Maybe he wants the guy from the Rangers? I'm forgetting his name. Is it Max, or the Tigers? Max Davis?
Clark.
Clark, yeah.
Max Clark, sorry. Yes. He can buy the entire 2024 draft. He can take the Mets guy who's a Braves fan. Just a lot. It's a lot going on. Definitely will be controlling the first draft. Bracked and Cody, if either of you want to get some thoughts, and we can kind of head to the next episode. Next matchup. If you guys have, if you guys want to quickly run through, we can just head to the next matchup.
I was just
I'll just say real quick. Two bad teams. One was less bad than the other. Shout out Scott's offense, 404. It needs to be mentioned. Chad needs to trade me Kyle Bradish. We'll talk about that later, Chad. But two bad teams. One was less bad. Congrats to Scott on the win. Congrats to Chad on draft position. Turn it over to Brackton.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, too. Congrats to Scott and Chad. That tonight was a big night for him, watching where his guys were going to go. He has 9 first-round picks, and they're probably going to be all top 10. So, except for maybe one, which just unbelievable work. And I'm regretting giving him 2 of them, that's for sure. So
I still have my first round pick, so we're fighting through, baby. We'll see how that shapes out. I honestly don't know who has their pick. I think I might have the best pick that doesn't belong to Chad. I could be wrong, unless someone else
Paul
has
has
their pick. I'm not
his
aware
own,
of it.
and that'll be
Okay.
yeah.
So Paul has his pick. So I'm the third. Let's go. That's winning on the margins, baby. So heading to the final matchup. big bounce back week for the Rocky Mountain Vibes. They take down the Amarillo Sod Poodles 849 to 437. An absolute shellacking, as the kids like to say. Big week for Bry, kind of keeping up with the Joneses. He's still trying to jostle for that top playoff positioning, and he definitely did his work here. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that. Obviously, good team versus a bad team, kind of standard stuff.
Yeah, I'll just say for this week, Bry's team, I know he talks about a lot with being inconsistent, but, when his team is on, it is scary, and a scary part was he had 398 points from his bats, 451 from the pitching, just perfectly balanced. Some big-time performances. Ozzie Albies had almost 50. Joey Votto had a homer. I think someone else was really using Joey Votto. But outside of him, Matt McClain with 40-ish, or I think he had 37. Jimenez had 48, so he's starting to turn a corner. Wow, he really has been turning a corner. In terms of pitching, Jesus Luzardo, 39. Hen's favorite player, Joe Musgrove, with 90 points. Holy shit, that is incredible.
Yeah, what a great player.
Yeah, but yeah, his streaming strategy was there. Most of his relievers were in the positives. Just a monster performance, and this is a team. Again, I know Bry's he's trying to consolidate and really upgrade some key positions of weakness. But as long as he's doing his strategy, and he's still got the majority of this core, he's still going to be cracking 750 plus each week. And I think he's got the potential for 900. He had 850, and there were some offensive performances too that weren't even up to par to what you usually see. Devers had 28. That usually doesn't happen. So I think a bright future ahead for the Vibes, not only for this year but for the coming years. And for Connor, a lot of wheeling and dealing this week, but some big time performances for some bats I want to highlight. Wilson Contreras had 69 points. Nice. You look down the list here. Whit Merrifield had 57. I know he was passed around. I have to double check who he went to. A guy I gave him, he started to turn around. Cookie Carrasco with a 40-piece against the Diamondbacks. Kenta Maeda was able to get some good pieces for. He had 45. So, Connor, again, building towards the future. He's doing a good job. Whenever he gets a hot guy going, getting some good value and returns back. He got Jake Outman back from me, who we were kind of passing around like a softball a week and a half ago. So good to see that. And, both teams are doing what they need to do for what their goals are at this point of the season.
Yeah, Bry, very convincing win. Pitching staff absolutely dominated. Joe Musgrove, that guy couldn't fucking do anything when I had him on my team, and he just dropped 90 points, 2 back-to-back 40-point starts. Although he was playing against the Mets, which is a pencil in for, a prime Randy Johnson outing, because, that team just loves, not hitting against him. And then Tyler A. Wells, the bane of my existence. 5 months ago, I couldn't get a worse for this guy, and he's a 23-point per game pitcher who literally has been on every other team. It's absolutely disgusting behavior. He was the last guy, I think, to get cut from my team. He was the 31st roster spot, got cut from my team, and yeah, he's just absolutely amazing. But yeah, Bryce still did kind of his little streaming thing, and 451 points from pitching is just absurd. I don't know many people that are competing with that. Even John Haidt on a good week, that's hard to touch. And hitting did some solid work. Andres Jimenez, like you said, almost 50. Stephen Kwan, 40. Randy Arozarena had a rough week, which is surprising. Same with Rafael Devers, but when you're winning by almost 400, it's kind of picking at straws here. So Brackton, I'll give you quick thoughts, and we can kind of go through these little trade talks.
Yeah, nothing much else to add here other than I'm curious on Christian Javier watch. If Bry's attempting to move him after another -4 start here, that's something that I could definitely see a lot of people getting interested in. Maybe he decides to sell off really high on Joe Musgrove, go younger, or maybe get some hitting depth here maybe. I don't know. Bry's got a lot of options. As far as Connor goes, made some good deals this week, which we're about to talk about. But somebody go give Connor a worse for Zach McKinstry. That would be really funny. So that's what we're gonna hope to watch.
Yeah, and I don't know where Cody went. No offense. This is actually, well, I was going to talk about trades, and he has the first big trade. But, yeah, I mean, very exciting week, especially compared to last week where a lot of the games were decided, late. I'm glad we got some, some Sunday heroics, even though there's no Sunday Night Baseball. We got some Sunday heroics, and obviously this could be a big week as you're just looking at the standings. Bracken's obviously selling. Smell is now in a position to buy. He could potentially jump in. So it'll be interesting. We still obviously are winding down the last month or so of the season. We're gonna head to some trades. I'm gonna wait for Cody to come back to talk about this McClanahan deal. If he doesn't come back in the next couple minutes, we'll just circle back. So, okay, well, that's another deal involving Cody. We'll start with the first trade not involving Cody. I want to talk about John Height. You mentioned a bit earlier. You picked up Christian Yelich for Jason Dominguez, Alan Lyle, Ed Howard, 2025 second via Cody, and a 2026 second via Smell. John, a little bit of thought process here. What were you thinking?
Yeah, so I mean, at this point of the season, I kind of know where my offense is, but I'm always trying to beef it up even more. I think there's still a lot of potential left. I mean, obviously, not having Judge for the longest time, still doing this makes me happy. And then with Trout going down to injury, I was trying to add one more. For the longest time, it was Adolis Garcia. Cody beat me to it, but I was kind of checking in with Tita for about maybe 2 or 3 weeks. We had a pretty good deal in place. Some things fell through. So as I was watching that unravel, I was checking on Yelich, a guy who I had in the offseason, and he has been unbelievable lately, very similar to Cody Bellinger. I think he's getting back to that MVP form. I mean, he's not in that MVP form, but he's getting close to what he was a couple of years ago. If he keeps this up the rest of the season, I think he's, if I remember correctly, he's a top 13 bat right now. And on the Fantrax scoring, he's 12th. And, he's just been unbelievable this year. So I wanted to add another outfielder because, again, Judge and now Trout out. I thought it'd be a cool combo with him and Betts and Castellanos. Dominguez is my guy, Yankees prospect. But after I traded Volpe away, which kind of helped me, let go of any Yankees fandom in this league. So, moving Dominguez, I could always get him back eventually. So I looked at it as Dominguez, 2 worse and 2 seconds, with none of them being this year. I thought it was, decent value. I mean, Hamco got a pretty good haul. Dominguez is the headliner, and then just some youth for a team that, again, that is looking to look for the future. Yelich doesn't fit his timeline. I got Yelich. He gave me a 40-piece. He is a dog, and just adding to my already pretty good offense. So I'm pretty happy with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give my thoughts. Obviously, Christian Yelich has been solid. Obviously not close to his MVP form, but he's still been a very productive, serviceable bat. I don't think he gave up a whole lot. I mean, I've said before, I'm still not completely sold on Jason Dominguez. I think it's just part of I think he's a big, product of the Yankees media hype train. I'm just not still sold on him. And then you gave up 2 worse and a late round pick for Cody in 2025, a late second, I should say. And then Smell in 2026, we don't know what his team's going to look like, but I mean, that pick's 4 years out from now. I'm not too pressed on that. And then, I mean, it's a solid deal for you, Honko, just building up some assets, accumulating stuff, and then, and then you get a nice little outfield bat you can throw in. Braxton, what were your thoughts?
Well, y'all know my thoughts. I don't like giving up 5 minor league assets for a lot of people, much less a guy that's close to my cutoff. So I think Homco did a good job.
He's over your new cutoff now.
He's 30.
Oh, he's 30 now? Yeah.
He's a 31-year-old 7-point-per-game bat.
Oh, there you go. I think Homco did a really good job given where his team is at, and I think he fits your timeline very well, so it's a good deal for both sides. But I really like the haul from Homco, especially because I'm a Dominguez fan, so yeah.
Kobe did a lot. Cody did a lot of wheeling and dealing. I kind of want to. I'll see if he comes in. I'll give him a couple more minutes. If not, we'll head over to. We'll skip over to a very interesting trade. We were talking about Smell buying, and he acquired Luis Arias from Tita for Curtis Mead, Dalton Rushing, and Jack Flaherty. I'll get my thoughts on it. I actually like this rollout for Tita. Obviously, Luis Arias has been amazing this year, but I really don't see his value growing that much more, and you pick up Curtis Mead, who's been hovering around a top 50 spec. I haven't been keeping up a whole lot with what he's been doing this year, but I know he had a lot of hype going into the season. Dalton Rushing, another top catching prospect, although catchers are kind of weird. And then Jack Flaherty, if you can get an arm plus prospect for, a second baseman with not a lot of pop, I kind of see that as a win. I think it's a kind of a good deal for both sides. Smell obviously trying to buy. Arise has some positional variety, and then Tita gets some nice little assets. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Brackton, I know you're not. Brackton, I know you've had Luis Arise a couple of times. What are your thoughts on this the former Bismarck Lark?
I mean, I like it for Smell a lot because I like Luis Arias a lot. I'm not very high on Curtis Mead and catching prospects, but I mean, so I kind of just view it. I mean, I know that they're both Mead and Rushing considered to be top 100 prospects by a lot of lists, even some say top 50. So I mean, Tita definitely got value there. There's no question about it. I mean, Flaherty's still, even though he's not a 20-point per game arm, he's pretty close to it, and he's 27. So, I mean, like, I like it for both, but I think, in my opinion, second base is very shallow in Dynasty. There's only like 3 or 4 guys that fit my timeline that I really want, and Arias is one of them. So, Smell getting him definitely helps with that. So, we'll see what Smell decides to do going forward. I know Tita traded me Jack Flaherty in a later deal, which we'll talk about. But, yeah, a good deal for both sides, I think.
And John Hine.
Yeah, I'll say for me, Tita and I have talked about it. I mean, we actually had a deal lined up for Arias, and with some, interesting, just random scenarios going on. The unfortunate, Tita had sent Smell, not Snell. I keep thinking of Blake Snell. An offer. Smell accepted it, as me and Tita were kind of confirming one. I do think Tita was getting a much better haul in this one, honestly, than mine. I think I was going to give up Bassett and Soler for Arias, which made sense for his team because he was trying to add a 20-point per game arm and, just an electric bat for this year. But for more towards the future, which he's now gunning for, I think it makes perfect sense. I know I ended up getting Rushing from him, but, Mead is a dog. Top 50 spec. We'll talk about Jack Flaherty as well. A part of me, obviously, I mean, Brackton knows it. I mean, I was trying to get a Rise just to kind of mess with him too, which would have been funny. He actually was only going to start for me one day this week, and after that, he probably wouldn't have started for me at all. So, props to Smell. This is exactly the move I thought was going to happen, and I said it last week too, where I thought he was going to buy because he might be, sneaking into the playoffs, and it's looking like it. So, I think it's a good deal for both sides, but again, Tita got a lot more upside than I was going to give him, so props to him.
Yeah, I think I gave Sam my piece on it. I think it's a solid deal for both sides. I like the return Tita got for him. And I'm going to head over this next offer. It's not a big deal, but I think it kind of the implications of what happened in the game, and also since it's the only trade I made this week, I feel like I'll say it. I got Michael Lorenzen for Austin Wells, Roderick Arias, and Brackton's 2024 second. Look, I'll say it up front. I probably overpaid in this deal, but guess what? My goal was to buy a start this week because heading into this week, I only had 10 starts. Scherzer ended up picking up another start from whatchamacallit. Because his start got moved. So I originally had 11. I needed to buy a start because I was trailing behind Paul. I saw Michael Lorenzen was playing the Athletics. I was like, look, the Athletics suck. They're not going to beat up on pitchers two days in a row. I decided to get Lorenzen. I was like, Austin Wells is cool, but like you said, Brackton, catching prospects are catching prospects. I still have Harry Ford. I still have Andy Rodriguez. Roderick Arias, he was obviously the number 1 international signing a year or two ago. He's not going to get called up for like 3 or 4 years. And then obviously it's a second-round pick. If I want a second-round pick in the middle of the back half of that round, I could just probably buy one. Hey, Michael Lorenzen, all-star pitcher. I'm just saying, if anyone's listening needs an all-star caliber pitcher, he is available. But that was my rationale. I don't care that I overpaid. My objective was to buy a start, to help me beat Paul. I bought Michael Lorenzen. He got me enough points to win. I'm fine with that. John, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've done this before where I bought a start. I just think, I'm a little biased. Austin Wells, I know he's a catching prospect. And similar to me, getting rushing too, which we'll get to in a sec. I mean, they could still move off catcher potentially, as we've seen with Henry Davis. But Wells is a guy who's absolutely raking for Somerset, the Yankees' Double-A affiliate. But the way to develop people is just fucking feeble. So he should be in Triple-A at the minimum right now, and probably could have made the team late this year or early next year if it wasn't for him just being stuck in Double-A. So I mean, he's still a good prospect. Arias, you mentioned, and then the second. Again, it is a decent amount to give up, but I understand why you did it. Lorenzen is an all-star, no matter what people say about it, even though he's Michael Lorenzen. But Dave got a lot more youth. His prospect pool is looking filthier by the day, honestly. So, it made sense for both sides. And interesting to see what you're going to do with Lorenzen. I just, unfortunately, don't think you're going to get that big of a return back if you do move him. But maybe I'll be wrong.
Brackton, I know you're a big fan of Michael Lorenzen.
No, I'm a big fan of Austin Wells because he fixed Anthony Volpe, and the dude's a dog now. So that dude's we love Austin Wells over here. But yeah, Michael Lorenzen, dude, that's really funny. All-star Michael Lorenzen. You know who else is an all-star? Josiah Gray. That's really funny. So.
Nah, he's still Lane Thomas should be an all-star for that team.
Yeah.
Or Jaimer Candelario.
Yes, facts. Josiah Gray got a Mickey All-Star appearance because he got traded for Trey Turner and Max Scherzer a couple years ago.
It's
All
good.
right.
Good narrative.
Funny.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. I think we're gonna Cody's. I don't know if he got disconnected or he had to do something. Understandable. I want to circle back. We'll go through these because obviously we're in the witching hours, as they like to say, and I got to be up kind of early, so we'll kind of go through these. So big trade Cody made. He did a lot of wheeling and dealing. He sent Jaime, Shane McClanahan, and Brian Reynolds for Sandy Alcantara and Pete Alonso. I'll start because I obviously have been linked to both these guys. Shane McClanahan was almost a beach dog. I backed out after some back concerns. I think I'm on the right side of that so far. I mean, he could come back, but the fact that in a week against Paul where Spencer Strider was huge in that matchup, I feel like I would have gotten 0 points from Shane McClanahan. So, you know what? I think I'm fine with that. And then Stinky Sandy had a good outing against the Phillies, but I'm not gonna. The Phillies are kind of weird sometimes, although they were road demons and they ended up winning that game. But I really like this deal. I think it was a pretty fair deal. I mean, Pete Alonso, like you said, John Hyde. My cousin always said this to me, and I think this is very interesting. Unless you're like a top 5 to 10 baseball player, all baseball players have 3 sets. They have a good stretch, a bad stretch, and that third stretch is good in terms of how good they are in the year. So, yeah. I think Pete Alonso had a good stretch to start, got hurt, had a rough start. The Mets suck in general, and I think he might hit his third good stretch, another third stretch for the rest of this third of the year. So, I like it. I'm not a fan of Sandy. I still think, I think he got a lot of wear and tear from last year, and I think that might affect him long term. But I'm also kind of hesitant on Shane McClanahan. So I think this is a good trade for both sides, I'll be honest. And Jaime gets obviously an ace back who he can just stash while the rest of his team is killing it. Bracco.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll say for this trade, I mean, first of all, on paper, excluding the circumstances and injury, it's just interesting to see because Pete Alonso is a much better bat than Brian Reynolds. And I think when they're both buzzing, I know Sandy won the Cy Young last year, but McClanahan this year I'm taking all day over Sandy. So interesting to see, both players, getting a better pitcher or batter. But I mean, right now, if Cody can get a bounce back performance from shitty Sandy, that'd be big. He could be, but I'm not really sold yet. Maybe he'll have a big second half. Anything can happen. But I mean, Pete Alonso is a dog. Again, I really think he's going to wake up again. I mean, the dude has already hit almost 30 homers. Probably going to hit at least 45. Cody's mentioned he wanted homers in his lineup, to try to get closer to the yard goats, and that's how you do it. Brian Reynolds has been Mickey for the most part. I know he had a pretty decent week, actually, but I'm still taking Pete all day. So I think it works out for both sides, and once McClanahan comes back, Jamie's going to have, maybe the best pitcher in the AL, if not top to 3 to 4. So good deal for both.
Bracto.
I don't love it for either side, to be honest. If Shane comes back, I think that's really solid for Jamie. I don't know what the injury status is on McClanahan, but when I traded him, he wasn't. Or when I traded him to Cody, I don't think he was hurt that badly. So I don't know whether he'll come back or not soon or whatever, but I don't love Brian Reynolds at all. I think the best player in the trade is Pete Alonso for right now. I think that's going to significantly help Cody. He was in that situation because he made the Vlad deal with me. We finally agreed to the Vinny P for Vlad base deal. I think McClanahan was involved in that too, actually, but it's whatever. We'll see what happens with Sandy, but if Sandy can rebound, I think it's fine. Pete Alonso is significantly better than Brian Reynolds, and I don't see. And if McClanahan was hurt, Sandy's better than nobody. So I guess I get it for Cody. So yeah.
Yeah, very interesting deal, and I remember John, how you said last week. It's a lot of these contenders now are like trying not to trade with each other because you don't want to stockpile one team or be the reason why, one team gets that edge over you. So it's a very interesting deal between two teams. Obviously, very close to one another. I think if you're looking at, I think you're in the tier of your own, and then it's like, Cody, Jaime, me. I think we're kind of in that tier too. So very interesting that these teams decide to make a deal. A rare deal, I will say.
Yeah.
But heading over to another Cody deal, a lot of wheeling and dealing. Tita and Cody deal. Cody gets Adolis Garcia and Camilo Doval for Vinny Pasquantino, Nolan Gorman, and Robert Gasser. I want to say I absolutely love this deal for Cody. Adolis Garcia has been mashing the ball. I think he's around a 6.5, 7 point per game bat. Camilo Doval, I know he had a bit of a rough stretch this week, but still, he's one of the best relievers in baseball. He'll get a lot of save opportunities because the Giants are kind of winning now. He gave up Vinny P, who's not going to help him out this year. He already has Pete Alonso, so excess goods. Nolan Gorman, until he stops striking out, I'm not really that high on him. It's also because the Cardinals, suck right now, and I'm going to imagine they're going to get worse before they get better because I think they're going to sell off a lot of pieces, which will kind of lessen RBI chances and run chances for Gorman. And Robert Gasser, solid prospect, borderline top 100 guy, not really a world beater. I think he doesn't, obviously he's a solid guy, but I think for what Cody's getting, I would easily give that up. Bracto used to be a Vinny P owner. What are your thoughts on this?
I love it. I love it
Gorman
for
right
Tita. I think he got his future infield before he made that trade with me. A future infield for a 30-year-old bat and a relief pitcher really stood out to me. Vinny P, when healthy, is undisputed a top 5 first baseman to own in a dynasty format. To me, probably even top 3. I'm huge on Vinny P. I would love to try and get him back here and wait on him for a year, but we'll see if I can make progress in that. But I think that, for what Cody's trying to do and helping him win now, Adolis is obviously a big piece, and Camilo Doval knows no slouch himself, but just I see what Tita's trying to do, get younger, get big-time young infield pieces like this. Nolan Gorman, to me, is a top 10, top 7, really, second baseman to own in a dynasty format. So I ended up trading for him, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think it's a good deal for both, but I really like it for Tito especially.
John Hike.
And I'll say for this deal, I think, I don't know why Brack didn't really say this part, honestly. Like, you kind of have to just see the circumstances of the deal. I think it made a lot of sense for both sides because, especially with Cody, the scary part of this deal, and he even told me this, was he's been going after Doval for the longest time, and he ended up being able to get Adolis as a part of it. Not as a throw-in, but just as like that extra missing piece. Because when I first saw this deal, I was like, oh, wait, he traded for Adolis and then got Doval because he said he's looking for home run hitting. Adolis Garcia is like the 9th ranked bat right now in all of our Fantrax scoring. So just wild that he was able to get both in one deal. He gets another dominant closer that's huge for the playoffs. Gets Garcia, who is, again, a top 10 bat this year, so he's going to keep it up, a guy that I highly coveted for this season. But yeah, I mean, getting Vinny Pasquantino, he's a dog. I agree. He's probably a top 5 first baseman to own in Dynasty. Nolan Gorman has cooled off considerably. He had a really good start to the season. I don't know what's been up with him lately, but I mean, he's young, so he has time to figure things out. Robert Gasser was also, I think, a pretty good pitching prospect. So makes sense for both sides. I think you really have to look at this by the situation standards, and I think that's the best way to analyze a trade of this magnitude.
Yeah, and I think the last big trade involving our comrade, our compatriot, Cody. Another deal involving Cody and Tita. Cody gets Pablo Lopez, Taijuan Walker, Ricky Tiedemann, and Mason Wynn. Bracton, I know you're a big Ricky Tiedemann fan. What are your thoughts on this deal?
Yeah, I
love how I'm just like transitioning it just by saying who owned who or who loves who.
I was confused when this deal happened. I mean, I think that that Taijuan Walker and Pablo Lopez were putting up somewhat similar numbers to not downgrade or like okay. I don't think the difference between Taijuan Walker and Pablo Lopez this year is my favorite pitching prospect in baseball and a top 50-25 prospect in Mason Wynn. But I mean, if Pablo Lopez continues to play well, like he's been playing, then I think it's okay for this year. But I don't know. I don't know. Taijuan Walker's been playing well too, but I had him too, and he was shit for me. So if it comes back down to earth, then maybe I see it. But I don't know, man. I love Ricky Tiedemann, and it's just I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough.
And I'm going to say, actually, I think for this trade, it's just weird because Cody got a good arm in Pablo Lopez, but he did the complete game shutout for Tita. So that was like his goodbye present to the Sounds. I don't know what he's going to do the rest of the season, honestly. I know, again, him and Rice are going to be linked forever because of the trade. But I mean, Taijuan Walker has been absolutely dealing right now. He's kind of like a lesser Blake Snell, in my opinion. Like, they've just been on insane stretches, and I get he's trying to capitalize on it, which maybe I should be doing. But, I mean, there's a chance that maybe Walker and Lopez stay around the same the rest of the year. We don't know. And I just think while we're figuring out that uncertainty, I mean, Ricky Tiedemann, again, is a top 3 pitching prospect in all of baseball. I'm not a big Mason Wynn guy. I know he's a little bit more defensive, but still, I mean, for value purposes, a top 50 prospect is great. So, again, I have to agree with Bracton here, actually. Just a strange trade. Again, I think this would all come down to if Walker and Lopez, if there's going to be that big of a gap. But right now, I don't think there is. So we'll see if that changes in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have to agree with you, Bracton, on this, where I like Pablo Lopez as a pitcher, but if you're just looking based on a pure, outcome look, I feel like Taijuan Walker has been a very solid pitcher, really the entire year. I think, he's been doing better a lot recently, but he's always been a guy, at least this year, who's like a high teens, low 20s point per game guy. Pablo Lopez is a few points better if you're just kind of taking them, extracting them, and especially if you're looking at their teams. Taijuan Walker is more likely to get, wins out of his starts than Pablo Lopez. Also, Taijuan Walker is just an innings eater. I'm not entirely sure how many quality starts he has on the year, but I just feel like whenever I watch him, unless he gets absolutely rocked, he is locked in for like a quality start. So he's had, 18 games started, 9 quality starts, including a quality start in 5 of his last 7. So, he's just, if you're getting a guy who's on a good team and he's consistently giving you 6 innings, I feel like usually that's a recipe for a good pitcher. And, Pablo Lopez, I don't think he's going to give you much more than that. And the fact that you get a very good, potentially ace caliber pitching prospect in Ricky Tiedemann, I'm not a Mason Wynn fan either. But I mean, he does have name value, I guess, which is always something to look out for. So I think this is, I get why Cody did, but I really like this trade for Tita. So, kind of not catching up to base. Another big trade, this time involving the Bismarck Larks, Bracton's favorite player who he can't get his name right. Miles Mikolas.
Man, why are we talking about this deal, bro? This was me getting a start. This is not a big deal. We're already an hour and a half in. Like,
You traded away Churio's brother. The culture's
Dude,
ruined.
You traded for an old dude. This is big news.
We're an hour and a half in. I needed a start. I got one. That's it. Next.
Churio's gone.
Like,
Jackson's next.
You got rid of Anthony DiScalafini, bro. That's a big move.
yeah, because he was on IL. I needed a start. God. Like, I've been getting shit for this all week. Bro put up 41. Like, now I traded him again. That's like, okay. It's over. Move on. Like,
Next deal,
Jesus.
Tita acquired Chris Bassett for Dalton Rushing and Will Warren. John Height, what are your thoughts on this deal?
I can't even get over what just happened. All right. So, yeah, the Chris Bassett deal. This was a trade. I have a ton of arms coming back. I got Erod, even though everyone thinks he stinks. Got him back. But, Rodon's back. He's an ace. So, I was looking to move a pitcher anyway. He hit me up about Bassett. I almost had traded to him for Arias. I was going to do a whole prospect deal. He was pretty strong with some of them, which I don't blame him with. I think we ended up being a good deal. I know Dalton Rushing's only a catcher, but he's absolutely raking, I think, right now. Top 50 spec. He's got name value. So getting him and Will Warren as a prospect I had before, I actually ad dropped for him, and then he's kind of got tossed around. Big Yankees arm. I think he could get called up potentially soon. So getting two pretty good pieces, especially a top 50 spec for, using some Bracton language here, like a 34-year-old is actually pretty good value for me. I'm obviously not trying to sell in any way, but when I'm always trying to replenish some prospects and some pick capital whenever I can, so I have some chips to work with, and that's kind of what this was. Bassett still is a 22-point per game arm. He gave me a good start earlier in the week, and I know Tito only got 5 points out of him today, but he'll be fine. He's still a good pitcher. 20-point per game arms don't grow on trees, so at least from my perspective, I'm kind of glad this whole trade went down.
Bracton, what were your thoughts?
good trade for John Height. Getting two prospects for a 34-year-old.
Let's go.
I hope that becomes a recurring theme. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, Chris Bassett, reel him in. But Paul Rushing's a solid catching prospect. Has some name value. And Will Warren's a worse.
He's not.
Talk about him.
Wait. Will Warren is not a worse. He's been passed around. He's being blunt rotation soon. People want him. He got traded this week.
Hi, Ryan Johnson.
Hi, Ryan Johnson.
Hi, Ryan Johnson.
Okay, keep going.
Oh, it's a Discord.
Yeah, we're in week 14.
Are you guys recording a podcast?
Yeah, it's our fancy podcast. It's fine.
Shoot, I'm sorry. I thought you guys...
All right, on to the next one.
Ryan Johnson guest
we're good.
appearance is a win. That's the best thing that's happened on this podcast yet. So, literally.
All
right.
Hey,
All right, let's go.
come on, it's 12:40.
Ryan Johnson for that appearance. Okay, next, an actual big Bracton trade.
Thank you.
Bracton gets Nolan Gorman, Jack Flaherty, and Joey Weimer.
Weimer.
No, it's Weimer. It's
Weimer.
It's
No,
Weimer.
it's pronounced Weimer.
It's Weimer to me.
Fuck that.
No,
It's Weimer does.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm going by the official pronunciation. I watched a couple of Brewers games, and they said Weimer. I'm going by his name. If you want to call him Weimer,
I'm
fine.
calling him Weimer.
Get the audio
Whatever.
off, Bracton. That's why we don't know.
Yeah, we do.
It's
have
Weimer. I thought it was Weimer. I don't know what game I was watching, but I was watching a Brewers game, and someone said Weimer, and I'm like, oh my god, his name is Weimer.
All right, we're an hour 35 minutes in. Let's go. Termar Johnson, Jose Barrios, and Welbin Francesa to Tita for Nolan Gorman, Jack Flaherty, and Joey Weimer.
Okay, fine.
To me, I think that Jack Flaherty isn't that big of a downgrade from Jose Barrios, and I got Nolan Gorman for Termar Johnson. Termar, as much as I love him, is very far away. I needed a second baseman today, so what do you call it? And then I saw a worse for Joey Weimer. I didn't think that this was a particularly lopsided trade in either direction. I think when it's all said and done, one day Termar Johnson's going to be better than Nolan Gorman. I just needed a second baseman today, and to get Flaherty to downgrade from Barrios wasn't that big of a deal for me, and I got Joey Weimer, who I love. And Joey Weimer is going to gun down Daniel Vogelbach again in the future because that was awesome. So, yes.
I have a question, though. The only thing I want to say is, do you think you would have made this trade today before you started kind of going back to the prospect way? Like, would you have kept Termar Johnson?
Yeah, no, I would have made this trade again.
Okay.
For sure.
All right, that's all
I think that if I want to sell Nolan Gorman, I can get more than Termar Johnson for him individually. And I sold Flaherty today and got a very nice package for Flaherty, so I'm happy about that. So yeah,
that's all I have to say, and you can move on.
I don't know. I like this deal for Tita. Like I said, until Nolan Gorman stops swinging and missing at the ball, I'm not a fan of his. I like Termar Johnson, former Beach Dog, very big fan of his. Jack Flaherty, he's been solid recently, although I can never trust him to stay healthy or stay consistent. I like Jose Barrios. And, if the big only piece you're winning is Joey Weimer for Wemblin Francesa, I don't think that makes a huge difference. So, we'll head over to the next. We'll head over to the purging, as they like to call it. Bracton trades away Bracton gets Gavin Cross and Jackson Jobe for Byron Buxton. See you, Tita. Bracton.
Two of my favorite prospects that I love, Gavin Cross and Jackson Jobe, who have traded multiple times this year. I got them back, and it all only cost me Byron Buxton, who I got for free a couple weeks ago. Come on.
Wait, they're your two favorite prospects
they're
right
two
now?
Two of my favorite prospects, not my favorite prospects. Two of my favorite prospects. And I got Buxton for free a very long time ago. I forgot what that Buxton deal was, but Tita gave me Buxton. Hold on. It was
It was Buxton, Clark Schmidt, a third, 2/3, and a second for Brooks Lee.
Yeah, that was great. I enjoyed that a lot. But yeah, so Gavin Cross and Jackson Jobe plus like 5 draft picks for Brooks Lee. That's what that was. So I'm happy about that. I love Gavin Cross. So.
Yeah, the Larks need to go younger. Anyone over 25 needs to be sentenced to death. So bye-bye Buxton. Hello prospects. W.
I'm not Byron Buxton. It's weird. He's always been a guy who hasn't been able to stay healthy, but he's been elite when he has played. And now that he's finally healthy, he's kind of sucked this season. He's mainly been used as a DH. His best asset, speed, hasn't been really used much. He's not hitting for power that much either. And he's obviously not young. I think he's in his
29,
30. I forget.
29. Right there.
Gavin Cross, Jackson Jobe, I think you actually made out pretty well with this deal. I mean, we'll see. Jackson Jobe, I think, is a big wild card, but I'm just not high on Byron Buxton this year, so I think you made out well on that front.
Yes.
We will not talk about your other Miles Mikolas trade, unfortunately.
No, I like that.
You want to talk about
I like that. No, I like getting assets for Miles Mikolas. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got Sung Che Cheng.
I don't know who that is, but I love the name. So
you got him.
Yeah, I know. Connor said sent
you didn't
one.
research your projects, your prospects?
Literally all it was Connor said sent one, and I was like, okay.
This isn't even his name.
I saw Nick Bitsko.
Oh, it is
I was
his
like,
name.
cool. And then I don't know who that other dude is, but that's fine. So that works.
Wow. So, he's a pirate. He's a pirate prospect.
All right.
Go.
I'm happy with the haul for Miles Mikolas.
Okay. Okay. We'll talk about. We got we got two more trades. We can rapid fire these because they're both kind of similar. Brackton gets Edward Cabrera, Hayden Wisniewski, 2 fourths for Jack Flaherty, and a fourth, or 2 2024 fourths and Bry gets 25 fourths. And then you trade away Ranger Suarez for a couple of 3 thirds this year, and a fourth this year. I'll talk about Brackton. I feel you've been got an awful lot, so I'll say my sense. I think Jack Flaherty, like I said before, I'm not a big fan of Jack Flaherty. I like Hayden Wisniewski. If he ever can get into a starting pitcher role, which I think might be plausible, I'm not entirely sure. I know they flirted with that last year. I like him as an arm. Edward Cabrera, just he can never stay healthy. That's big unfortunate. But I don't like Jack Flaherty, so I think you won that deal. Ranger Suarez for the collection of picks. I understand you were trying to go for quantity here, which I kind of get. I wish you would have gotten a bigger asset because maybe just because I'm a Ranger Suarez fan, I think you could have gotten a bit more, but you did need to recuperate on some picks, and you got that. So I understand what you're going for. I think you just could have gotten a bigger headliner if you're going for a quality over quantity package.
I've been asking I've been putting Ranger Suarez on the block for a year and have not gotten anything near what I wanted. I've wanted 4 worse for a very long time, and I just got 4 worse today, so I'm happy with it. Jack Flaherty, I like Jack Flaherty, but I like Edward Cabrera more, and I'll take lottery ticket pitchers any day of the week, and Hayden Wisniewski already has some big league experience. My goal with this kind of retool is to get as many 2024 picks as possible and as many lottery ticket pitchers as possible. So if I can do that, I'll be happy. And so far so good. That's my plan.
And I'll actually say here, me and Brackton have very different views on a lot of things in this league, but I'm going to say that Jack Flaherty deal, I think it's an absolute home run. I think if you make deals like this exact blueprint, I think you're going to have actually a ton of youth and collection of picks. I mean, I can't stand Jack Flaherty, unfortunately. That's probably a part of it. But I mean, I know Edward Cabrera is eventually going to come back. But like exactly getting rid of an to me pitcher for Edward Cabrera when he's healthy is probably around the same. Maybe he could even be better than Flaherty.
I agree.
With a lottery ticket, and then you're getting 2 fourths for. Wait, you got 2 fourths this year.
For a fourth.
Yeah, so that's good. I mean, this is like the blueprint. I think you kind of have to go for the next couple of weeks. Just getting these downgrades and just getting picks. So I mean, I think I know it's not a big deal, but I just feel like it's one of the best deals we've made in a while.
That's the best. That's my plan. Yeah, I love Edward Cabrera.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like I really like that. And then Ranger Suarez too. I'm not high on. I will say, though, I like it for Connor because he got a decent arm. I know he's like an 18-point-per-game arm, and Connor needs some arms. So I like it for Connor. And then for you, getting 4 assets, I think is still big. I don't think you really could have gotten more than that, to be honest.
I don't either. Yep.
So, so it's a rare sight, but I actually love both these trades for you.
Okay, we are done with the deals. Okay. So, done for the deals. We're going to go through these matchups, because it is kind of late, and I do have to be up kind of early in the morning. And the extended week, it's kind of a little weird stuff going on here. But we'll start with matchup of the week with Bowling Green Hot Rods against the Nashville Sounds. And I was really curious. I kind of wish this matchup happened a couple of weeks earlier because I think that's when both those teams were really similar in terms of what they were doing. I think Cody has gotten significant. I think Cody has retooled his team and gotten better over this span. I think Tita has gotten worse. I think both those owners would admit it. So I wish we got this matchup maybe a couple weeks ago because I think it would have been more competitive. But also in this extended week, it's kind of fugazi. Anything can happen. My opinion, I think Cody's going to win by 100, 200. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think you put it best, Hen. I think a couple weeks ago, Tita's team, had a bunch of those bats. He had Adolis, I know, so that would have helped. It's definitely in a different spot, although by the end of this scoring period, between the 2 weeks, I think his team's going to look a lot better than it is now. I think he's going to sort of wheel and deal and sort of upgrade a little bit after getting some youth. I'll still take Cody. I think, Tita kind of realizes that too, especially in a 2-week stretch. There's very few teams that you feel remotely comfortable playing in a 2-week week. I mean, I would never want to play Cody on a 2-week stretch ever. So good luck to Tita. Praying for you, man. But yeah, I'll take the Hot Rise by probably 150. I think is my range. Could be more though.
I agree. Nothing much else to add.
Nice. Next big matchup. Talking about playoff seeding and seeding, and another big matchup. The Tampa Tarpons taking on the Norfolk Tides. Jaime versus Paul. John Height. Obviously, these are. I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, this is a fun one. I'm actually pretty excited to see how this one goes down. I know I picked Jamie last week, and I said his offense is going to bounce back. It did. Do I think it's going to regress? Maybe a tad, but I think that's immediately amended because it's a 2-week week. I'm going to take Jamie in this one. I just think, first of all, I love Paul's team. I've said it since the first week of the season when I beat him that he has a great team. I think it's going to be actually somewhat closer than what people are probably going to say it is. But I'm going to take Jamie's team. But it should be a fun one. I think it'll be somewhat close to the beginning, and then I think Paul's done a decent job of rebuilding his arms, and it should be a fun one.
Acton.
Yeah, I think that Jamie's going to take this, but it is going to be close. I think this is going to trigger some selling from Paul. But I like what Jamie's doing. I think that some of these guys are going to have bigger weeks than they would have, or than they did last week. Like, I don't think Acuna scores under 40 again this week, and I think that he gets some better pitching performances from some of these other guys. So we'll see, but I like Jamie to win this week.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Jaime. I think he's been kind of on a roll. He has been on a roll. I bet against him against Tita. I think that was more just to kind of get my boy Tita for the sweep, but he really proved himself. I like what he's been doing with his pitching. His bats are still obviously incredible. I agree with you, John. I think there's a world where we could see Paul potentially selling here, depending on how things shake out. I don't know if he's someone who really wants to be content, just being a 6 seed, I think, or a 7 seed. I think he'd rather want to sell off pieces, and if he gets the 7 seed, backs his way into it, I think that's what he would rather want to do. So I think I could see, Jaime winning this match, although, Paul's team is very sneaky good, as I know personally. Next matchup, we're going to go to myself, the Clearwater Beach Dogs. Actually, we'll go to Bracton. Bracton, Bismarck Larks taking on the Rocky Mountain Vibes. Bracton, how are you feeling about the Larks this week?
I sold off some pitching, but I don't think I really took myself out of it this week. I think it's still going to be closer than what we think. I think I'm going to get big performances from my big guys, and I think it will be fun and close. But if I lose, I wouldn't be surprised. So,
and I'll say for this one, Bracken, you're trying to sell off now. It's hard for me not to pick Bry. I think actually a big reason for this, I actually do think your offenses are going to be somewhat close. I've said that. Again, your bats are better. But I just think, unfortunately, the way it is, his pitching is going to blow yours out of the water. I think you'd have to agree, especially with the way he's also with his ability to effectively stream. And some of the guys he's been able to come in, and Bry's trying to buy. So I wouldn't be surprised over this 2-week stretch he buys maybe an arm or two and gets another bat in there. So I'm going to take Bry. But again, I just think a close part of the matchup could be the bats, if there is one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Bry. I feel like he's realized what he needs to improve on his team. He's someone who's been buying recently. He's had a couple of really good performances. I was doubting his team for a little bit, but he really has kind of turned on. He had an 850-point week last week in only 7 days, which was the second most, only behind John Height. I think he realizes, if he really wants to compete, he's got to keep up with the Joneses. He's been buying, he's been scoring. I like him. Bracton, I think I think you're starting to figure out you're going to get a little retool going. I think I can see this being close because I do. Your bats are solid. And I think your bats can keep up with Bride depending on the week. But I think it's going to come down to pitching, and just he has better pitching, and he, like John said, he streams pretty well. So now we'll head over to my own individual matchup as I take on the El Paso Chihuahuas. I haven't actually set my lineup yet because I'm going to wait. It's not Monday. I don't really, no game Monday. I don't have to really stress out about it too much. But, I'm going with the mantra I always say. I'm going to pick myself to win every single week. I don't care who I'm playing. I had a rough game against Paul, but I'm saying this right now. My bats were absolutely horrendous. Not a stereotypical performance. There was the weird Corbin Carroll situation. Juan Soto played shit. The only really consistent bat was Max Muncy, and then Kyle Tucker and Lane Thomas did their thing. I think I'm going to get a lot of good production out of these regulars. I think we're going to bounce back. Obviously, Smells doing a lot of buying, but I'll be honest, I'm just going to take my team over Smells.
Yeah, I'll go first for this one. I just think, unfortunately for Smell, getting a big win this week, he's trying to compete for that 7th seed. I don't think this matchup could have came at a worse time for him. I think during this 2-week stretch, he needed an opponent. Obviously, Hen is a top 3 to 4 team in the league, probably top 3. So having going up against this team for 2 weeks, I sure as heck would not want to play Hen for 2 weeks, just like when I want to play Cody or Jamie or Bri, whoever. So I'm going to take Hen. Again, I've said this. I'm not going to take anyone against Hen until he plays me again. Or the other 2 times. So I'm going to take Hen. I just think for Smell, he still needs to buy, even though he's probably 90% going to lose this 2-week stretch. Just because if he's trying to make that 7 seed push, he's got to keep buying. So as long as he's doing that and he's getting good production out of people and he's making it maybe somewhat respectable, I think that's all that matters for him at least.
Brockton.
You're going to win, but it's going to be close. Hang on, I'm talking to Deal here. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
What do you think that's make it close? I'm curious.
Smell's going to get some arms.
Okay.
From me.
Interesting.
So
foreshadowing, some would say.
Yeah, a little insider trading, some may say.
Wow, that's crazy.
He's just given me a Godfather offer for Cease, Scooball, and Bieber that I heavily need to consider.
Wow.
Here, so
Godfather.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Interessante.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll break down that trade if it happens in the next 5-10 minutes. But
it might.
Yeah, we'll round out the people on the pod. John Height, you're playing Scott. I'll be honest. I'll just say this right now. I pick you in every week. I'm not going to change that against you playing Scott. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say for this week, I'm actually pretty grateful. I've had a very tough schedule this year. I know I've been able to not lose a game yet or a matchup yet. Scott is actually a very good offense. Like we saw last week, he's got the potential to drop 400 points. I think I needed a week like this. For me, it's all about getting Carlos Rodon back to what he was. Erod getting back to a 20-point per game pitcher, and this kind of gives me some time to experiment a little bit with a couple of guys. Just put up a shit ton of points like I've been trying to do each week, and maybe shop around again, try to continue my buy. I think it's going to be fun. Sorry, I'm stuck. I think Scott, his offense again is going to be decent. Francisco Alvarez is turning into a top 5 to 10 catcher in baseball. So obviously, I'm going to take myself, and some smooth moves could be around there the next 2 weeks, and hoping to stay undefeated.
Braxton.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
Okay, wait, sorry.
Braxton, me versus Scott, just pick one.
Yeah, you're going to win. All right.
Okay, good. Okay, next.
Okay, last two matchups. Two tank bowls, I guess. Yeah, two tank bowls. We'll go. I don't know. We'll go. Connor and Dave. Connor was in here earlier. Amarillo Softpools, Rochester Red Wings. Yeah, I don't know. This is a very interesting matchup to me. You know, both teams obviously at the bottom of the standings, but I think Dave's due. I don't think he's won a game since he's beaten Cody. He's had some very solid hitting performances. I think he's someone who, they're both obviously, GMs who are actively always trying to at least put themselves in competitive spots, even if they are rebuilding. But if you're kind of taking this from a macro level and who's done better recently, I think Dave's gonna narrowly beat Connor.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be a fun one. I think there's kind of two sides to Connor's team. We saw him really hang around with Jamie for a little bit the week they played, and then Jamie kind of took off. And Brian just took off from the beginning of this week. So this one, I think, is going to be obviously a little bit on the low scoring side. It all depends on if Connor's bats can really get going. If guys like Rizzo, LeMahieu, Chris Bryant, CJ Cron, can these dudes get hot? Because again, right now Dave's bats are super hot. Riley Green is going to get going. Santander's a dog. Candelario's a dog. But it's interesting to see who Dave's going to keep, because I think some of these guys could be moved the next week or two. He's looking for the future. Obviously both teams are. But yeah, I'll lean Dave by just a little bit. I think this one will be close. But again, Connor's a very good manager. He wheels and deals. He can buy a little bit if he maybe gets a lead. So, but for the time being, I'll just lean a little bit towards Dave's side.
Bragdon, Dave Connor, excuse me.
Dave.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Last matchup. Palmco, Kannapolis Cannonballers, Oklahoma City Dodgers. I know which team wants to lose, and that's Chad. And I think he will lose. I think Palmco's due. He's been due for way too long. He had a rough loss against Smell. I like his team more. I think Palmco's going to win.
Yeah. Palmco has been snake bitten the whole year. Like I said, futures bets again. You want to sprinkle a tad on Palmco making the playoffs next year. Interesting to see what he'll do with Michael Harris this week. If he trades him, I heard he turned down some pretty godfather offers for him. So should be interesting to see what he does with him. But yeah, Chad can laugh and giggle and tee his way into the top 10 of this year's draft. So if I'm him, I don't know if I even set my lineup, because he is so set for the future. And, maybe just try to keep trading any old dudes that pop off and get younger guys. So I'll take Palmco.
Bracton.
Palmco by a lot.
By a lot. Excellent analysis. Got any guys? Anything more left to say before we wrap up this episode?
Yeah, final thoughts.
Yeah, Bracton, you can do your final thoughts first. Yeah, I'll do mine after yours.
All right, I walked to get Chinese food tonight before my night of trades and this podcast and the draft and everything, and I got a fortune cookie. It says, "The good life is a process, not a state of being. It is a direction, not a destination." That's the way we're going to operate from now on here at Bismarck. That's the plan.
Powerful
it's
stuff.
A direction, not a destination. Powerful stuff.
That is some Socrates level stuff I've ever heard. But I'll say for me, my final thoughts. I know I don't have to beat the bush anymore. What happened with me and Bracton this week? We're not going to play probably till next season. So I'll let his team cook. I'll let mine cook as well. For me, it should be fun. I think it's interesting that we have a 2-week stretch, for one scoring period. Teams can really drastically change, I think, a lot over this next 2 weeks. I hope the activity's still up even during this little All-Star break, with the Derby tomorrow and the All-Star game, which I still think it will be. Teams are finally have a little lull to reassess and figure out what they're going to do. Again, I just said for me, I can kind of figure out a couple of things that I want to keep going for my team and keep trying to score 900 plus each week. Hopefully, cross my fingers, but it should be fun and excited to see what goes down. Very excited to see what's going to go on between Jamie and Paul, which is probably my matchup of the week outside of Cody and Tita. But yeah, playoffs are soon, and I'm excited to get the playoffs going. I'm dying for it at this point.
Who do you got in the home run derby, John?
I think for such narratives, it's gonna be so funny. I think Pete Alonso's gonna win it, even though he can't hit for shit in real life, in normal batting. So if I had to do a little futures one with some value, I'm gonna take Pete, even though there might be some other guys in there. Actually, Braxton's guy Robert is up there too, the way he's been hitting. But I think Pete, even though he's been terrible in real life baseball, he's gonna win the derby again. He's a home run derby merchant.
I'm actually gonna go with your boy Braxton. I think Vlad's gonna win this. I think he's due. He should have won it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He lost the home run derby merchant. I think he's gonna win.
One of my guys is gonna win it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that'll do it for us here on the Base on Ball podcast. I'm Hendog, joined alongside John, Hunt, and Braxton. We will not be here next week, as we said before, All-Star break, extended week, but we will be back here the following week from analysis from this extended week. I assume a plethora of trades, and then we'll preview the following week's matchup where we have 1 month left of action. It's getting spicy here at the Johnny Lee Memorial League. Thank you for tuning in and listening. We'll be back later with the podcast. Take care.